we're going to be looking through the major differences between both. And like Agbon said, it's very important when you want to make a decision about your brand to be clear what your business case is and which of the two you want. In fact, the scenario she painted when she said, the client wanted a rebrand, but actually asked for a brand refresh and then ended up getting a brand refresh. That's quite I wish you could tell us a little bit more about that, because that is, wow, that is a confusion you don't want to happen, because they're two different things. For instance, the brand refresh is just about updating your existing brand. You will have to review your brand strategy, but the tweaks to your strategy are likely to be minor. The modifications of the visual identity will also happen. You would also need to revise your messaging to a very large extent. You would also need to start with market research, as we always do. Last week, we talked about the process, starting off with your research, with your audit. In fact, that is always the first thing, finding out why do you need to do the rebrand, what needs to change. In fact, what you get from your market research is what then determines whether or not you should go for a rebrand or a refresh. And if it's a refresh, how much of a refresh do you want to do? I mean, what are the things you will not change? For instance, again, using the example of Shell and where I worked before, there is no rebrand that will make anybody change that red and yellow logo, because it is iconic. Everybody knows it. So there is nothing that is going to happen that will change that. So because everybody knows that has become, it has so much brand equity, it has developed into such a mature and respected and known brand across countries, there is no way you're going to throw away all of that equity. So if you're going to tweak it, it's going to do something that will enhance the brand and not diminish it. That's very important to know. So again, brand refresh takes lower investment. You don't really need that much to do that. And you can turn it around in a shorter time frame. And it requires, it does require outside expertise, but not that much. However, a rebrand, which is you are rebranding, and this, before you can talk of a rebrand, most of the time is quite mature brands, or they've been around for a while, and you've had enough time to sort of see how the brand is doing to get to the point and say, this brand is no longer delivering for us, because a brand is supposed to deliver for a business. So, and you've done enough research to see that the problem is the brand, because sometimes the problem is not the brand, it's the management or it's leadership. So if there's enough information to see that, okay, there are many things wrong, but one of the things that is wrong is the brand, or needs to be changed is the brand, and a decision is made, fine. It requires a complete repositioning of the brand. Last week, we talked about how people make mistakes by rebranding without reworking the strategy, the messaging, and then when it's now time to interpret and implement the brand, you do not have the talking points, you don't have the messaging, you do not have enough insights to be able to really interpret that brand. That's something you need to guard against. So this rebrand requires in-depth analysis of your brand strategy. You need to think about the new direction that you're going to take, because why are you rebranding if there's not going to be a new strategy? It doesn't make sense. People are going to wonder, why did you do that? So there has to be a lot of thought put behind, the thinking as to why you're doing this. And of course, you will probably need to redesign your visual identity. So starting up from something that looked a certain kind of way, most of the times the symbols will change, the colors, the feelings and all that. But again, all of this should be research-based. Even for companies or brands that rebrand, you will always find out that there's some element of continuity. We will talk about there are a few brands that sometimes there is no continuity between the former and the latter. That happens sometimes when maybe there has been a damage to the reputation of the prior brand, or a hostile takeover, like Elon Musk took over Twitter and decided to rebrand to completely X. You wanted a clean break completely. And you can see that in terms of strategy, they've gone in a completely different direction. So it actually does make sense for him to have rebranded, because the policies, the philosophy, the ethos of the brand has changed completely. It's a completely different company now.